The ship was dying. Commander Veltar pressed his thin fingers against the cold metal wall of the control room and felt the vibrations of failing systems throughout the hull. The gentle current had been running for 3 months now, her engines pushed far beyond safe limits. Now those same engines had finally given up. "Commander, we have lost primary power," reported his second officer, Nimra. Her voice was calm, but Veltar could see the fear in her large dark eyes. Like all Zephyrians, she was tall and delicate, with pale skin that seemed almost transparent under the emergency lighting. Their species had evolved on a moon with low gravity and thin air. They were not built for the harsh realities of deep space warfare. Through the main viewing screen, Veltar could see the distant stars of the Kepler 442 system. They had hoped to find sanctuary here, far from the expanding borders of the Krillian dominion. Instead, they had found only empty space, and now their ship was powerless, drifting like a piece of cosmic debris. "How long before they find us?" Veltar asked. "The Krillian fleet is 2 days behind us at most," Nimra replied. "Our last jump signature will lead them right to us." Veltar closed his eyes. Behind his eyelids, he could see the burning cities of Zephyr Prime. The Krillians had given his people a simple choice: serve as slaves in their empire or die fighting a hopeless war. Most of the Zephyrian fleet had surrendered immediately. Only a few ships like the Gentle Current had chosen to run, carrying refugees and what remained of their free government into exile. The Gentle Current held 8,000 Zephyrian civilians, families with children who had never known war, scientists and artists who represented the best of their civilization. All of them would be dead or enslaved within days unless something changed. "Sir, we are receiving multiple distress signals from other refugee ships in nearby systems," the communications officer reported. "The Krillians are hunting down everyone who fled. They want to make examples of us." Veltar walked to his command chair and sat down slowly. His people looked to him for answers he did not have. The Zephyrian military had been designed for peacekeeping and exploration, not warfare against a species like the Krillians. Their enemies were reptilian predators who had conquered half the galaxy through superior weapons and complete ruthlessness. "Open a channel to all ships in the fleet," Veltar ordered. "Channel open, Commander. This is Commander Veltar of the Gentle Current to all Zephyrian vessels. Our engines have failed and we cannot continue. The Krillian fleet will reach us within 2 days. I am ordering all ships with working engines to continue to the outer systems. Do not stay to help us. Save yourselves and as many of our people as you can." The replies came quickly. Captain Yorvan of the Swift Wing refused to abandon them. So did the crews of 4 other ships. They would stay and fight, even though their light weapons could barely scratch Krillian armor. Veltar felt a deep sadness settle over him. These good people would die uselessly, trying to protect civilians they could not save. "Commander," the communications officer called out, "I am picking up something strange." "What kind of strange?" "There are stories, rumors really, about a new species that has appeared at the edge of known space. They call themselves humans. The stories say they come from a death world." Veltar had heard these rumors too. Most military officers dismissed them as fantasy. A species from a death world could not possibly develop space travel. The environmental pressures would prevent the development of advanced civilization. "What about them?" Veltar asked. "Sir, some of the stories claim these humans respond to distress calls, even from species they do not know." Nimra turned to look at her commander. "Sir, those are just stories. No species helps strangers without expecting something in return. It is not logical." Veltar stood up and walked to the communication station. The young officer there was barely more than a child by Zephyrian standards, but his eyes held desperate hope. "What would we have to lose?" Veltar asked quietly. The question hung in the air. They were already dead. The Krillians would show no mercy to refugees, especially those who had embarrassed the Dominion by running instead of surrendering. "Begin broadcasting a general distress signal on all frequencies," Veltar ordered. "Include our location, the nature of our situation, and the approaching threat. If these humans exist, and if they truly respond to calls for help, then perhaps they will hear us. Sir, that will also make it easier for the Krillians to find us," his tactical officer warned. The Krillians already know where we are, Veltar replied. Our jump signature leads right to this system. But if there is even the smallest chance that someone else might hear our call and come to help? The distress signal went out immediately, spreading across space at the speed of light. It carried the simple message of a dying ship and 8,000 innocent lives that would soon be lost unless someone answered their call. Veltar returned to his command chair and waited. Around him, his crew worked to restore what systems they could. The gentle current still had life support and basic communications, but without engines or weapons they were helpless. The hours passed slowly. Other Zephyrian ships reported similar distress calls going out from refugee fleets throughout the region. If the humans were real, and if they were truly willing to help strangers, they would have many calls to choose from. On the second day, long-range sensors detected the approaching Krillian fleet, 12 heavy warships led by the dreadnought Bone Crusher, flagship of War Prime Zekthos himself. The Krillian commander had come personally to crush the last of the Zephyrian resistance. They will be in weapons range in 6 hours, the tactical officer reported. Veltar nodded. He had done everything he could. Now they could only wait and hope that somewhere in the vast darkness of space, someone had heard their desperate call for help. The distress signal reached the USS Defiance 18 hours after the gentle current sent it out. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison was drinking his third cup of coffee when Communications Officer Lisa Rodriguez called out from her station. "Sir, we have an alien distress signal coming in on multiple frequencies." Morrison set down his coffee and walked over to her station. The bridge of the Defiance was small and cramped compared to the larger ships in Earth's fleet, but she was fast and well-armed for a patrol vessel. Morrison had commanded her for 2 years, keeping watch at the edge of human space. "Can you translate it?" Morrison asked. Rodriguez worked at her console for several minutes. The computer systems had basic translation programs for the few alien languages humans had encountered, but this was something new. "Got it, sir. The computer is using pattern recognition to break down the language structure. It is definitely a distress call." The translation appeared on Morrison's screen. As he read it, his expression grew dark. 8,000 civilians trapped on a disabled ship. A hostile fleet approaching with orders to kill or enslave everyone aboard. A desperate plea for help from anyone who might be listening. "Where is this coming from?" Morrison asked. "The Kepler 442 system, sir. About 6 light years from our current position." Morrison studied the star charts. Kepler 442 was well outside human space, but not impossibly far. The Defiance could reach it in 4 days if they pushed the engines hard. "Sir, should I report this to Luna Command?" Rodriguez asked. Morrison nodded, but he was already doing calculations in his head. Even using the fastest communication methods, it would take 3 weeks to get orders from Earth. The alien distress call indicated that the hostile fleet would arrive in less than 2 days. "Send the report to Admiral Kane immediately," Morrison ordered. "Full emergency priority. Include everything we know about the situation." He walked back to his command chair and sat down heavily. Jake Morrison had served in the Martian colonial wars, where human forces had fought brutal campaigns against separatist groups using guerrilla tactics. He had learned that sometimes the right choice meant ignoring orders and acting on your own judgment. "Helm, set course for the Kepler 442 system, maximum speed." His helmsman, Ensign Carl Davis, turned around with surprise. "Sir, we do not have orders to enter alien space." "We have orders to respond to distress calls from any vessel in danger," Morrison replied. "Those orders do not specify that the vessel has to be human." The Defiance turned toward Kepler 442 and engaged her faster-than-light drives. Morrison knew he was taking a huge risk. First contact with alien species was supposed to follow careful protocols developed by Earth's best diplomats and scientists. Instead, he was racing toward a battle with species he knew nothing about. 3 days later, Admiral Patricia Kane received Morrison's emergency transmission at Luna Command. She was reviewing fleet deployment reports when her aide rushed into her office with the decoded message. Kane read it twice, then reached for her secure communication line to Earth Command. Within an hour, she was in emergency session with the Joint Chiefs and the Secretary of Defense. This could be the most important moment in human history. Kane told the assembled officers. First contact with alien civilizations, and it is happening during a military crisis. General Robert Hayes, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward. What do we know about these species? Almost nothing, Kane admitted. The refugees call themselves Zephyrians. They appear to be peaceful. The aggressors are called Krillians, and they sound like a military empire that conquers other species. And Morrison is already on his way there? Yes, sir. He will arrive approximately 12 hours before we can get a proper response force to the system. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the implications. A single human patrol ship against an unknown alien fleet was not good odds for first contact. Admiral Kane, the Secretary of Defense said, I want you to assemble the largest fleet you can and get to that system as fast as possible. If we are going to meet alien civilizations for the first time, we need to make sure they understand that humanity is not to be underestimated. Kane nodded. I already have a preliminary force structure in mind, sir. Task Force Cerberus. 15 ships including the Retribution as flagship. Do it. And Admiral, make sure Captain Walsh understands that this mission could determine humanity's place in whatever galactic community exists out there. Kane left the meeting and immediately began issuing orders. Within 6 hours, ships throughout the Sol system were changing course toward Luna Command. The battle cruiser UES Retribution, under Captain Danny Walsh, would serve as flagship. The assault carriers Harbinger and Vengeance would bring marine assault teams. 6 heavy destroyers and multiple frigates would provide additional firepower. Colonel Amy Foster received her orders while conducting training exercises on Mars. Her first expeditionary marine force was the most experienced unit in the human military, having fought in conflicts across 3 different worlds. Now they would be the first human ground forces to potentially face alien enemies. Pack for extended operations, Foster told her unit commanders. We do not know what we will face out there, but we need to be ready for anything. Dr. Raymond Clark, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, worked frantically to prepare briefing materials on what little humanity knew about alien life. Most of it was theoretical, but he understood that his job was to help the fleet commanders understand what they might encounter. Based on the distress signal, these Zephyrians evolved on a low-gravity world with thin atmosphere, Clark explained, to the senior staff. They are likely fragile by human standards. The Krillians appear to be aggressive and militaristic, but we have no data on their physical capabilities. Captain Walsh listened carefully to the briefing. He had commanded the Retribution for 3 years, leading her through multiple combat operations against pirates and separatist groups. But this was completely different. Doctor, what are the chances that these alien species are more advanced than us technologically? Very high, Clark replied. If they have faster-than-light travel, they likely have technology we have not developed yet. However, their approach to warfare might be very different from ours. Walsh nodded. Human military doctrine had developed through centuries of warfare on Earth, followed by conflicts on multiple colony worlds. Humans fought dirty, used every advantage they could find, and never gave up. If these aliens had never faced such an approach, it might give humanity an edge despite technological disadvantages. Task Force Cerberus launched from Luna Command 36 hours after receiving Morrison's distress call. 15 human warships jumped toward the Kepler 442 system, carrying the hopes and fears of an entire species making its first contact with the galaxy beyond. As the fleet entered faster-than-light travel, Walsh stood on the bridge of the Retribution and wondered what they would find when they arrived. Would Morrison and the Defiant still be alive? Would the alien refugees survive long enough for help to arrive? And most importantly, how would humanity be judged by whatever galactic civilization awaited them among the stars? Lieutenant Commander Morrison felt his stomach tighten as the USS Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What he saw on the main screen made him reach for his communication headset immediately. The Krillian fleet had already arrived. 12 massive warships hung in space around the disabled Zephyrian refugee ship, like predators surrounding wounded prey. The largest vessel, A dreadnought nearly twice the size of anything in Earth's fleet dominated the center of the formation. "Rodriguez, can you get me a clear communication channel to both fleets?" Morrison asked. "Working on it, sir. The Krillian ships are using some kind of quantum encryption, but I can break through with our new systems." Morrison studied the tactical display. The gentle current was completely helpless, drifting with no power to her engines or weapons. Several smaller Zephyrian ships floated nearby, also appearing damaged or disabled. Against them, the Krillian fleet looked ready for total war. "Sir, I have communication established with both sides," Rodriguez reported. "Put me through to the Krillian commander first." The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the alien dreadnought. Morrison found himself looking at a creature that belonged in Earth's worst nightmares. War Prime Zekthos was massive, over 8 feet tall, with dark green scales covering his entire body. His face was elongated like a crocodile filled with sharp teeth, and his yellow eyes held no mercy at all. "I am War Prime Zekthos of the Krillian Dominion," the alien leader said in perfect English. "You are in violation of our territorial claims, human vessel. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed." Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. This creature already knew about humans and spoke their language. That meant first contact had happened before, somewhere else in the galaxy. "This is Lieutenant Commander Morrison of the United Earth ship Defiance. I am responding to a distress call from civilian refugees. Under galactic law, they are entitled to safe passage and protection." Zekthos laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Galactic law is decided by those with the power to enforce it. These Zephyrian criminals rejected the generous offer to join our empire. Now they will serve as examples to others who might make the same mistake." "I cannot allow you to harm civilian refugees," Morrison replied. "You cannot allow?" Zekthos leaned forward, his massive claws scraping against his command chair. "You pilot one small ship against my entire fleet. Your species may be new to space travel, but surely you understand basic mathematics." Morrison looked at his tactical. "Officer, how long until our reinforcements arrive?" 4 hours, sir." Morrison made his decision. "War Prime Zekthos, I am ordering you to withdraw from this system and leave the refugees in peace." The Krillian commander stared at him in disbelief. "You order me? A single ship orders an entire fleet?" He turned to speak to his crew in their own language, and Morrison could hear harsh laughter from the alien bridge. "Human, I will give you one chance to leave. Turn your ship around and return to whatever small corner of space your kind inhabits. Otherwise, I will add your wreckage to the examples I am making here." "I respectfully decline your offer," Morrison said calmly. Zekthos roared in anger. "Then you will die with the rest of these fools. All ships, destroy the human vessel." The communication channel cut off, and Morrison immediately opened a line to the gentle current. "This is Commander Morrison of the human ship Defiance. We received your distress call and we are here to help." The alien face that appeared on screen was completely different from the Krillian monster. Commander Veltar looked delicate and peaceful, with large dark eyes that showed both hope and fear. "Commander Morrison, you must leave immediately. The Krillian fleet will destroy you. Your single ship cannot fight all of them." "Commander Veltar, my people have a saying. We never leave anyone behind, especially not civilians who asked for our help." 3 Krillian destroyers broke formation and moved toward the Defiance. Morrison watched them approach on his tactical display and felt the familiar calm that came before battle. "All hands, this is the captain. Battle stations, prepare for combat." The bridge of the Defiance transformed as his crew moved to their positions. Morrison had trained these people through dozens of combat simulations, but this was their first real battle against alien technology. "Sir, the Krillian ships are charging some kind of energy weapons," his tactical officer reported. "I have never seen anything like them." "What about our weapons? Can we penetrate their shields?" "Unknown, sir. Their defensive systems are completely different from anything in our databases." The first Krillian destroyer fired. A beam of pure energy lanced across space toward the Defiance. Morrison felt the ship shake as the beam struck their forward shields. "Damage report. Forward shields down to 60%, sir." But they held. Morrison smiled grimly. Human shield technology had been developed to handle everything from nuclear weapons to particle beams. It seemed to work against alien energy. Weapons, too. Return fire, all forward weapons. The Defiance struck back with everything she had. Nuclear-tipped missiles, particle beam cannons, and kinetic projectiles launched toward the Krillian destroyer. Morrison watched the tactical display as his weapons reached their target. The results surprised everyone. The Krillian shields, designed to stop energy weapons, had no defense against solid projectiles traveling at incredible speeds. The kinetic rounds punched through the alien ship's defenses like they were made of paper. "Direct hit," the tactical officer shouted. "Their shields are failing." The Krillian destroyer reeled from the impact, atmosphere streaming from multiple hull breaches. Morrison pressed his advantage, firing another spread of missiles that found their target and sent the alien ship spinning out of control. On the bridge of the Bone Crusher, War Prime Zekthos stared at his tactical display in shock. How had one small ship managed to cripple a Krillian destroyer? Their energy shields should have been impenetrable to such primitive weapons. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel," he commanded. "Destroy it immediately." The remaining Krillian fleet turned toward the Defiance, their energy weapons charging for a massive coordinated strike. Morrison knew his ship could not survive that kind of firepower. Then space around them lit up with new faster-than-light signatures. Task Force Cerberus had arrived early, 15 human warships dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. "Captain," Walsh's voice came across the communication channel. "Commander Morrison, this is Captain Walsh aboard the Retribution. Sorry we are late to the party." Morrison looked at the tactical display and smiled. The odds had just changed dramatically. 15 human ships against 11 remaining Krillian vessels. For the first time since arriving in the system, he felt like they had a real chance. "Captain Walsh, glad you could make it. The Krillians do not seem interested in peaceful negotiation. Then we will have to convince them the hard way. All ships, this is Captain Walsh. We have civilians to protect and enemies to fight. Let us show these aliens what humans do to bullies who pick on the defenseless." The space battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Captain Walsh divided Task Force Cerberus into 3 attack groups, each one moving in patterns that seemed reckless to the watching aliens. The human ships accelerated, directly toward the Krillian fleet, their engines pushed to maximum power. War Prime Zekthos watched from his command bridge as the human ships approached. "They are insane," he growled to his tactical officer. "No sane species charges directly." "At superior firepower. Sir, should we maintain defensive formation?" his officer asked. "No. Spread the fleet into hunting formation. We will destroy them one by one as they reach us." But the humans did not attack one by one. Instead, they coordinated their assault in ways the Krillians had never encountered. 3 human destroyers would focus all their firepower on a single Krillian ship, while the others provided covering fire and electronic warfare support. The Krillian cruiser Stormbringer found itself targeted by over 50 missiles at once. Its energy shields, designed to deflect laser and plasma weapons, had no defense against the solid projectiles that followed. Nuclear warheads and kinetic penetrators punched through the alien hull like it was made of thin metal. "Sir, the Stormbringer is requesting immediate assistance," came the report to Zekthos. "Send the Thunderclaw and Bone Ripper to support her." But when the 2 Krillian ships moved to help, they found themselves facing the human carrier Harbinger and her escort destroyers. The humans had predicted exactly what the Krillians would do and prepared an ambush. Lieutenant Sam Mitchell, tactical officer aboard the Retribution, coordinated the battle from his station. He had studied every piece of data about alien warfare that Earth's intelligence services had gathered. Most galactic species fought in formal patterns, following rules designed to limit casualties and damage. "Captain Walsh recommend we execute Pattern 7, Mitchell said. "Do it." Pattern 7 was pure human military doctrine. Instead of engaging ship-to-ship in formal duels, the human fleet would concentrate overwhelming firepower on single targets, while using speed and maneuverability to avoid return fire. It was a tactic developed in Earth's naval wars and adapted for space combat. The results were devastating. Within 30 minutes, 4 Krillian ships had been destroyed or disabled. The aliens had superior individual technology, but they could not adapt to human tactics fast enough. War Prime Zekthos realized that his fleet was being destroyed by an enemy that refused to fight according to accepted galactic rules. All ships, focus fire on their flagship. Destroy the large vessel and the rest will surrender. 8 Krillian ships turned their weapons toward the Retribution. Energy beams that could slice through asteroids converged on the human battlecruiser. Captain Walsh felt his ship shake under the assault, but her armor and shields held. Damage report. Walsh called out. Forward shields down to 30%. Armor breaches on decks 4 and 7, but we are still fighting, sir. Walsh smiled, grimly. The Retribution had been built to survive exactly this kind of punishment. Human ships were designed by engineers who understood that space combat meant taking damage while delivering your own. All batteries, return fire. Target their flagship. The Retribution's weapon systems opened up on the Bone Crusher. Nuclear missiles, particle beams, and kinetic rounds hammered the Krillian dreadnought's shields. But Zekthos' ship was larger and more heavily defended than the others. Sir, we are not penetrating their main shields, Mitchell reported. Walsh looked at the tactical display and made a decision that would have horrified any sane military officer. Colonel Foster, prepare your Marines for boarding action. Colonel Amy Foster had been waiting for this order. Her Marines were loaded into assault pods, small armored shuttles designed to punch through enemy hulls and deliver troops directly into hostile ships. Sir, that is a suicide mission, Mitchell said. We have no idea what the inside of that ship looks like. Colonel Foster, what do you think? Walsh asked over the communication system. Foster's voice came back calm and confident. Sir, my Marines are ready. We have trained for hostile boarding actions in unknown environments. This is exactly what we do. Launch when ready, Colonel. 20 assault pods launched from the human ships and streaked toward the Krillian flagship. They were small targets, hard to hit with weapons designed for ship-to-ship combat. Most of them reached the Bone Crusher's hull and began cutting through the armor with plasma torches. War Prime Zekthos felt his ship shake as the human pods attached to the hull. What are they doing? Sir, they appear to be cutting through our outer armor. They are trying to board us. Zekthos stared at his tactical officer in disbelief. Board us? No species has attempted shipboarding in over 200 years. It is considered too dangerous and barbaric. Sir, they are cutting through Deck 12. Internal security teams are moving to intercept. The first human Marines to enter the Bone Crusher were led by Sergeant Nick Parker. His squad moved through the alien corridors in powered armor that made them look like mechanical monsters. The armor was designed to function in environments that would kill unprotected humans, from the frozen surfaces of Europa to the radiation-soaked battlefields of Mars. The first Krillian security team to encounter the humans opened fire with energy, weapons that should have killed any living creature. Instead, the Marines absorbed the hits on their armor and returned fire with weapons the aliens had never seen before. Sergeant Parker carried a combat shotgun loaded with armor-piercing rounds. At close range in narrow corridors, it was devastatingly effective against enemies who had never faced such weapons. His squad also carried grenades, plasma cutters, and other tools designed for fighting inside enemy ships. The psychological effect on the Krillians was immediate and terrifying. These humans fought like wild animals, but with advanced technology and military training. They moved through the ship as if they belonged there, cutting through bulkheads when doors were locked, and fighting with a ferocity that broke Krillian morale. Sir, the humans have reached Deck 8, came the report to Zekthos. Our security teams are retreating. Retreating? From boarding parties? Zekthos could not believe what he was hearing. Krillians were supposed to be the most feared warriors in the galaxy. Send more troops. Stop them. But the humans kept advancing. They had split into multiple teams, each one moving toward critical ship systems. One team headed for the engine room. Another went for the weapon control centers. A third moved toward the bridge itself. Colonel Foster coordinated the assault from her command pod, which had attached to the Bone Crusher's main hull. Parker, report your status. Colonel, we have secured the main corridor on Deck 6. Moving toward the power distribution center now. These aliens fight hard, but they panic when we get close. Understood. Wilson, what is your status? Sergeant Carl Wilson's team had reached the Krillian engine room. Colonel, we are at their main power plant. It looks like something out of a science fiction movie, but we can figure out how to shut it down. Do it. The lights throughout the bone crusher flickered and went out as Wilson's team disabled the main power systems. Emergency lighting came on, but the great dreadnought was now running on backup power only. On the bridge, War Prime Zekthos felt his command ship dying around him. Half his weapons were offline. His shields were failing. Human Marines were fighting their way through his ship like it was their own territory. Sir, the humans are 3 decks away from the bridge, his tactical officer reported. Zekthos looked around at his crew. These were supposed to be the elite warriors of the Krillian Dominion, but he could see fear in their eyes. They had never faced an enemy like this before. Prepare to activate the ship's self-destruct, Zekthos ordered. If we cannot win, we will take these humans with us. But before he could give the final command, Captain Walsh's voice came over the ship's communication system. War Prime Zekthos, this is Captain Walsh. Your ship is disabled and my Marines control your critical systems. Surrender now, or I will have them detonate your reactor and destroy this ship with everyone aboard. Zekthos stared at the communication panel. The human was threatening to destroy the entire ship just to stop him from using it as a weapon. It was the kind of ruthless calculation that no civilized species would make. For the first time in his military career, War Prime Zekthos felt something he had never experienced before. He felt afraid of an enemy that was willing to die to protect strangers and kill to stop bullies. I surrender, he said quietly. The silence that followed War Prime Zekthos' surrender stretched across the battlefield like a blanket. Captain Walsh stood on the bridge of the Retribution and looked at the tactical display showing 11 disabled or destroyed Krillian ships, floating in space around the rescued Zephyrian refugees. All human ships cease fire, Walsh ordered. Secure the area and prepare to receive prisoners. Colonel Foster's voice came through the communication system from inside the bone crusher. Captain, we have the Krillian command crew in custody. Their War Prime is requesting to speak with you directly. Put him through. The main screen showed the interior of the alien flagship's bridge. War Prime Zekthos sat in his command chair, but now he was surrounded by human Marines in powered armor. The massive reptilian warrior who had seemed so terrifying an hour ago now looked defeated and confused. Human Captain, Zekthos said slowly, I do not understand your species. You risked everything to save refugees you had never met. You destroyed my fleet to protect creatures who cannot offer you anything in return. This makes no sense. Captain Walsh studied the alien commander for a long moment. War Prime, where I come from, we have a simple rule. You do not hurt innocent people. Ever. Anyone who breaks that rule has to deal with us. But what do you gain from this? Zekthos asked. In galactic politics, every action must have a benefit. No species helps others without expecting payment or advantage. Maybe that is the problem with galactic politics, Walsh replied. Dr. Raymond Clark had transferred to the Gentle Current to begin first contact procedures with the Zephyrian refugees. He found Commander Veltar and his crew in a state of shock. They had watched the entire battle from their disabled ship, unable to believe that the rumors about humans were true. Commander Veltar, Dr. Clark said through the translation system, I am Dr. Clark from Earth. We received your distress call and came to help. Veltar's large dark eyes were filled with tears. Dr. Clark, your people saved 8,000 innocent lives today. How can we ever repay such a debt? You do not owe us anything, Clark replied. But we would like to learn about your people and this part of the galaxy. We are new here, and we need friends who can teach us about galactic civilization. Over the next several hours, Clark learned more about the galaxy than Earth scientists had discovered in decades of long-range observation. The Zephyrians were part of a loose alliance of peaceful species who traded with each other and shared knowledge. Most of them had evolved on worlds with gentle environments and had never developed strong military forces. The Krillian Dominion, was one of several aggressive empires that conquered weaker species and used them as slave labor. For centuries, the balance of power had favored the militaristic species because peaceful civilizations could not fight back effectively. Dr. Clark, Commander Veltar said, "Your people have changed everything. Word of this battle will spread across the galaxy within days. Every species will know that there is finally someone who can stand up to the empires that prey on the weak." 3 days later, Admiral Kane arrived with additional ships and a full diplomatic team. She found Captain Walsh dealing with requests for help from dozens of different species. Apparently, news of humanity's intervention had traveled faster than anyone expected. "Captain Walsh, report," Kane ordered as she came aboard the Retribution. "Admiral, we have secured the area and taken custody of the surviving Krillian forces. The refugees are safe and requesting permission to travel to human space where they will be protected. And we have received over 30 distress calls from other species asking for our help." Kane looked at the star charts showing the locations of the distress calls. They came from across this entire region of the galaxy. "Captain, it looks like we have accidentally started a war." "No, Admiral," came a new voice. Ambassador Helen Wright had arrived with Kane's diplomatic team. "We have ended several wars that have been going on for centuries. The question now is what we do with the responsibility that comes with this power." Wright had spent her career dealing with complex international situations on Earth. Now she faced the challenge of establishing humanity's place in a galaxy where might made right and the strong preyed on the weak. Over the following weeks, Wright met with representatives from dozens of species. Some came seeking protection from aggressive neighbors. Others came offering alliance against common enemies. A few came simply to see these humans who had done the impossible by defeating the Krillian Dominion. The Galactic Council, which had ignored the Zephyrian refugee crisis, suddenly became very interested in meeting with Earth's representatives. Wright found herself invited to address the assembled delegates of over 200 different species. The council chamber was a massive structure orbiting a neutral star system. Wright walked into the chamber wearing her formal Earth diplomatic uniform and carrying the hopes of her entire species. The assembled aliens were unlike anything she had imagined. Some were tall and thin like the Zephyrians. Others were short and stocky. A few looked almost human, while others were so alien that she could barely recognize them as intelligent life. At the center of the chamber sat the council speaker, a being called Torvash, who had held the position for over 50 years. His species looked like giant insects, but he spoke with wisdom and authority. "Ambassador Wright," Torvash said, "we welcome Earth to the galactic community. However, your entrance has been somewhat dramatic. In a single battle, you have upset the balance of power that has maintained stability for centuries." Wright stood at the speaking platform and looked around at the hundreds of alien faces watching her. "Speaker Torvash, honored delegates, my people did not seek to upset any balance of power. We simply responded to a distress call from innocent civilians who needed help. And yet," said another delegate, "you have now received alliance requests from 37 different species, military assistance requests from 12 others, and threats from 6 major empires who see humanity as a threat to their expansion plans." Wright nodded. "Speaker, my government understands the situation we have created. Earth is prepared to take responsibility for our actions." "What does that mean specifically?" Torvash asked. Wright had discussed this moment with every senior official in Earth's government. They had made their choice based on human values and principles, knowing it would change everything. "It means that Earth formally offers protection to any species threatened by aggressive neighbors. It means we will respond to distress calls from anywhere in the galaxy. And it means that bullies who prey on the weak will have to deal with humanity." The chamber erupted in noise as hundreds of aliens spoke at once in dozens of different languages. Some were excited, others were terrified, a few were angry. When the noise died down, Torvash spoke again. "Ambassador Wright, you are proposing to become the galaxy's police force. That is a responsibility beyond anything any single species has ever attempted. Speaker, my people have a saying. With great power comes great responsibility. We did not ask for this power, but we will not Run from the responsibility that comes with it. 6 months later, the first permanent Earth base outside Sol system was established in the Kepler 442 system, where the Zephyrian rescue had taken place. Major General Kevin Stone commanded the Terran Defense Initiative's forward headquarters, coordinating responses to distress calls from across the galaxy. Captain Walsh, now promoted to Admiral, commanded the expeditionary fleet from his flagship. The fleet had grown to over 60 ships, with more being built as fast as Earth's shipyards could produce them. The galaxy had changed. Species that had lived in fear for centuries now had someone to call when threatened. Aggressive empires found their expansion plans blocked by human fleets willing to fight for the protection of innocent civilians. War Prime Zekthos, now a prisoner on Earth, spent his time trying to understand the species that had defeated him. In his cell, he wrote reports that would be studied by military strategists across the galaxy. "The humans fight like no species we have encountered," he wrote. "They combine advanced technology with primitive aggression. They will sacrifice their own lives to protect strangers. They refuse to follow accepted rules of warfare. Most importantly, they believe that protecting the innocent is more important than their own survival. This makes them the most dangerous enemy any military force could face." Commander Veltar had accepted the position of Earth's first alien ambassador. He worked with Dr. Clark to establish the protocols that would govern humanity's relationships with the hundreds of species now seeking contact with Earth. "Dr. Clark," Veltar said one day as they worked on trade agreements, "do your people understand what they have started?" Clark looked out the window of their orbital station at the steady stream of alien ships arriving to meet with human representatives. "Commander, I think we are still figuring that out ourselves. But one thing I know for certain is that the galaxy will never be the same again." And across the stars, on worlds where the weak had always lived in fear of the strong, the word spread in 100 different languages. The humans had arrived. The age of bullies preying on the defenseless was over. And anyone who sent out a distress call would find that somewhere in the darkness of space, Earth's children were listening and ready to answer.